When the old man first sat beside me on that empty park bench, I didn't think much of it, just another quiet stranger looking for a place to rest, but the moment he spoke, something in the air shifted in a way I still struggled to explain, as if time itself paused so his voice could slip into the cracks of my life and reveal things I didn't even know I had lost. I remember it was late afternoon, one of those golden hours that paints the world in soft honey light, where shadows stretch long across the grass and everything feels a little too peaceful to be real. I had come to that park because life had become unbearably loud. Deadlines, debts, a breakup I hadn't recovered from, a sense of drifting that clung to me like fog. I just wanted silence. But silence is a strange thing. It often arrives in unexpected forms. The old man wore a faded navy coat that looked older than both of us combined, the kind with worn elbows and buttons that had been replaced by mismatched ones. His white hair was thin, brushed neatly back, and his hands trembled slightly, the way leaves do in a soft breeze. But his eyes were impossibly sharp, sky blue, as if carrying reflections from a lifetime's worth of sunrises. "You look like someone carrying a heavy story," he said without turning to me. I blinked, unsure whether to respond. He didn't strike me as dangerous, just strangely intuitive. "Rough week," I muttered. He gave a short, warm laugh. "Weeks don't break people. Years do." I didn't know how to answer that. I didn't even know if he was talking to me or to himself. But then he said something that pulled my entire attention toward him like gravity. "Tell me," he whispered, "when did you first learn that the world doesn't always keep its promises?" I froze, because no one had ever asked me a question like that, not my friends, not my family, not even the therapists I'd half-heartedly visited in college. It was the kind of question that slips past the surface and lands deep. "I don't know," I said after a long breath. "Maybe when my mum left. I was 10, he nodded slowly, as if confirming a detail he already knew. 10 is a fragile age, old enough to understand abandonment, too young to protect yourself from it. I looked at him then, truly looked. "Do you go around asking strangers hard questions in parks?" He smiled. "Only the ones who are ready to answer." I could have walked away. I could have put my headphones back in and ignored him. But something kept me anchored, maybe his voice. Maybe the gentle certainty with which he spoke. Maybe the strange feeling that he wasn't truly a stranger at all. "You seem like you've lived a lot of life," I said carefully. "That," he murmured, "is an understatement." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an old pocket watch, silver, tarnished, engraved with initials I couldn't make out. He rubbed his thumb over its surface, almost tenderly. "For most people," he said, "time is a measurement. For me it is a companion, sometimes a friend, sometimes a ghost." I wasn't sure what that meant, but curiosity tugged at me. "You talk like someone who's seen things," I said softly. The old man's lips pressed into a small smile. "Oh, I've seen more than most. But it's not the years that matter, it's the moments. The tiny ones. The ones people forget to notice." "Like what?" I asked, leaning in without meaning to. He took a slow breath, eyes drifting toward the pond in front of us, where ducks glided calmly through the water as if they'd memorized the route. "Like the moment you meet a person who changes everything," he said, "and you don't even realize it until much later. Or the moment you choose silence when you should speak, and the consequences follow you for decades. Or the moment you stand at a crossroads, one path easy, the other terrifying, and you choose the wrong one because fear has a louder voice." I swallowed. "You're speaking from experience." "Oh yes," he said, almost laughing, "from more experience than I wish I had." He shifted slightly, wincing as if his bones ached in the cool breeze. Then he turned to me fully for the first time. "You asked if I've lived a lot of life," he said, "but the truth is, I have lived many lives, and not all of them were kind." Something about the way he said that, quiet, worn, trembling at the edges, made my heart tighten. He continued before I could respond. "I loved a woman once," he murmured, "more deeply than anything else in this world. She had a laugh like wind chimes and eyes that made me feel seen for the first time. But I was young, and foolish, and afraid." "What happened?" I asked. "I left," he whispered. "When things got difficult, when I felt undeserving, I told myself she would be fine without me, that she deserved someone better, and perhaps she did. But the truth," he paused, his breath shook, "the truth is, I was not leaving her. I was running from myself. I felt something crack open inside me." "Did you ever see her again?" He closed his eyes. 53 years later." My eyebrows shot up. "You found her again after 53 years. He nodded. "Or perhaps she found me." "How?" I asked, barely breathing. The old man gave a soft smile, as if recalling something both painful and beautiful. She wrote me a letter, he said. A letter she never intended to send, but her daughter, who I didn't know existed, found it in her belongings after she passed away. The letter was addressed to me, so the daughter searched. She found me, and delivered it. I felt a jolt run through me. What did the letter say? He swallowed. When he spoke, his voice was quieter than before. It said, "She forgave me." The wind seemed to hush then, as if honoring the weight of his words. And it said, he continued, that even though I left, she never stopped hoping that the boy she loved would eventually become the man he wanted to be. Silence settled around us. I felt my chest tighten, a mix of sorrow and admiration swirling inside me. "I'm sorry," I whispered. He shook his head. "Don't be. Regret is a teacher, not a prison." Something dawned on me then. "Is that why you're telling me this? Because you think I'm running from something?" He looked at me with those piercing blue eyes. "Old, knowing, you're not running," he said gently. "You are drifting, and that is far more dangerous." Those words hit me like a blow. I opened my mouth to argue, but nothing came out, because he was right. I had been drifting through jobs, through relationships, through dreams I once held tightly but now barely remembered. "How do I fix that?" I whispered. "You don't fix drifting," he said. "You anchor yourself." "How?" He smiled softly. "By choosing something or someone worth staying for." I stared at him, stunned by how effortlessly he spoke truth into the hollow places of my life. Before I could respond, he lifted the pocket watch again. "Every life," he said, "has a moment where everything turns. You won't see it coming, but when it arrives, you must be awake enough to recognize it." He closed the watch carefully, almost ceremoniously, "And when it does," he added, "you must choose. Even if you are afraid." I was completely still. His story, his wisdom, his regret, his quiet grief, it all felt like a message wrapped in mystery, like he was telling me more than he was saying. Then he whispered something that sent a chill down my spine. "You remind me," he said, "of the man I wish I had been." My breath caught. "Why would you say that?" He smiled sadly. "Because I never sat with a stranger and told him my story. And if I had, perhaps, things might have turned out differently." He stood then slowly, carefully, using the armrest for support. The light behind him framed his silhouette in gold. "I'll tell you the rest tomorrow," he said. "If you're here, I'll be here," I replied instantly. He nodded as if he had expected nothing less. But as he began to walk away, his final words lingered like a shadow in the fading light. "Tomorrow," he said, "I will tell you the part of the story I have never told anyone." I came back to the park the next day, long before the sun began its slow descent, long before the shadows stretched across the pond again, long before the golden light found its way between the branches that swayed like they were keeping secrets. I sat on the same bench, feeling the wood press into my back, feeling the strange ache of anticipation settle into my chest like a second heartbeat. Every time someone walked by, I lifted my head, half expecting to see the old man's familiar silhouette. That navy coat, that silver pocket watch glinting in the fading light. But minutes drifted into an hour, and an hour drifted into 2, and still he didn't come. And as the sky began to blush with the soft pink of early evening, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, something just out of reach, something waiting to be revealed whether I was ready or not. I must have checked the time a dozen times before reminding myself that I didn't even know his schedule. He had appeared yesterday, like he materialized out of the air, quiet, gentle, unexpected. Maybe he lived nearby. Maybe he wandered. Maybe our meeting had been nothing more than chance. But the way he spoke, the way he looked at me with those impossibly knowing blue eyes, it never felt like chance. It felt intentional, almost destined. Just when I started losing hope, I saw a figure approaching from the far end of the path, slow, careful, the same measured gait I recognized instantly. Relief washed through me so sharply I exhaled out loud. The old man reached the bench with a small, apologetic smile. "I wondered if you'd come," he said. "I told you I would," I replied. He nodded, lowering himself beside me with a soft sigh. "Good, because today is harder than yesterday." Something in his voice made the hairs on my arms rise. "A promise is a promise," he murmured. I leaned in. "You said you would tell me the part of the story you've never told anyone." "So I did," he whispered, "and I intend to keep that promise." He opened his coat slowly and brought out the same silver pocket watch, holding it like something unbearably delicate. "Do you know," he said, "why people carry objects from their past? It's not because the objects themselves matter, but because they hold the version of us we've left behind." He opened the watch. Inside, instead of a clock face, there was a tiny photograph of children standing in a yard, maybe 5 or 6 years old. One of them was the old man as a boy. The other, I didn't recognize. That, he said softly, is Charlie. Before I could ask, he continued, Charlie was my brother. I stayed silent, sensing the turbulence beneath his calm voice. We were inseparable as children, shared everything, laughed together, fought together, dreamed together. But when we were 12, his fingers tightened around the watch. We wandered too far from home one afternoon, into the woods. We'd been told never to go there alone, but children rarely listen. A storm rolled in faster than we expected. Wind like knives, rain that stung. We got lost. He swallowed. We found shelter near an old stone bridge, but the river beneath it was swollen, thrashing like something alive. I told him we had to climb across, that it was the fastest way home. He trusted me. He always trusted me. The old man paused as his breath trembled, his eyes fixed somewhere far away. When I crossed, the stone felt steady under my feet. But when Charlie stepped forward, I heard a crack, a sound I will never forget. The stone beneath him crumbled. He fell into the water. My breath caught. I grabbed his hand. I held on. God knows I held on. But the river, his voice broke. The river took him. Cold spread through my chest. I stared at him, helpless, aching. For years, he whispered, I carried the weight of that day. I blamed myself. Every path my life took came from that moment. Every fear, every hesitation, every time I left when I should have stayed, every time I drifted instead of choosing a direction, I became a man shaped entirely by one regret. He closed the pocket watch with a trembling snap. That is the part of the story I never told anyone, not my wife, not my daughter, not a single soul, because it wasn't just a memory, it was a wound, one that refused to close. I swallowed hard. I'm sorry, I whispered. He shook his head gently. Don't be. I tell you this not for sympathy, but because yesterday, when I saw you sitting here, I recognized something in you. The way you held yourself, the weight in your eyes, the quiet ache beneath your voice. I saw a man who had his own river inside him. My breath hitched. You saw all that? Oh yes, he said. Life gives certain people the ability to see truth in others, but only if they've suffered enough to recognize it. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The wind rustled the leaves above us. The pond shimmered like liquid glass in the fading light. I told you yesterday, he said, that every life has a turning point, a moment when everything could change if you are brave enough to choose it. I nodded. Double quotes. Well, he continued softly, your moment is coming soon. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I feel it. And when it comes, you must not run. You must not drift. You must not choose the easier path. And what if I do? I asked quietly. He gave a sad smile. Then you will spend the next 50 years wondering what might have been. I felt those words like a strike to the heart. As the sky darkened, he leaned back slightly, letting out a tired breath. There is something else I must tell you, he said. Something, stranger. My pulse quickened. When I left yesterday, he said, I did not go home. I went to a place I visit sometimes, a small church near 5th and Maple. The priest there is a friend. He keeps records. Old records, family records. I asked him to check a name. What name? I asked, confused that the old man's eyes met mine, blue, intense, unwavering. Your mother's. A chill ran through my body. My mother, he nodded. I thought perhaps I recognized her name, and I was right. I stared at him, my heart pounding. You knew my mother? Not well, he whispered, but I knew of her. We lived in the same town many years ago. My hands grew cold. My voice shook. Why didn't you say anything yesterday? Because I wasn't certain until now. He reached into his coat again, pulling out a folded piece of paper. What is that? I asked, barely breathing. A page from an old parish ledger. He said, your birth record. I stared at it, stunned. Why would you look for that? Because, he said softly, I needed to see the name of your father. My stomach dropped. But why? I whispered. He hesitated, breath trembling, eyes glistening. Because I had a suspicion, he said. A suspicion I feared was true. He handed me the paper. My eyes scanned the faded handwriting. Then my heart froze. I looked at the old man. He looked at me. Your father, he said in a shaking voice, was my brother. Silence, a deep, crushing silence that seemed to swallow the entire park whole. What? I gasped. Charlie. The old man nodded slowly, painfully. Before the river took him, before that terrible day, before everything changed. He knew your mother. Even as boys, we knew nothing of how life would unfold. But that one summer, they were close. I felt dizzy. My pulse roared in my ears. You mean, I whispered, you're my uncle. He closed his eyes as if the truth itself was too heavy to hold. Yes, he said softly. I believe I am. My breath shook. My world tilted. Everything, the way he spoke to me, the way he understood me, the strange pull I felt toward him suddenly made sense. like puzzle pieces clicking into place after a lifetime of searching for the edges. But why? Why tell me now? I whispered. His voice cracked. Because, he said, I don't have much time left. My stomach lurched. What do you mean? He lifted his trembling hands slightly. My heart, it is failing. Slowly, but certainly. The doctors told me I have months, maybe less. And when I saw you yesterday, I recognized the eyes of my brother, the shape of his smile, the echo of his spirit. I could not leave this world without giving you the truth. My vision blurred. Tears filled my eyes without permission. I wanted to tell you yesterday, he whispered, but I needed one more night to gather courage. I covered my mouth with my hand, the grief too sudden, too sharp. I spent my whole life carrying regret, he said, but meeting you, seeing you alive, grown kind-hearted despite everything you've endured, it has given me something I never thought I would feel again. What? I choked. Peace, he whispered. A tear fell down his cheek. I thought I had lost my brother forever, but through you, I see that a part of him survived, a part I can speak to, a part I can love. My tears fell freely now. We sat there in silenced lives, two histories, two broken halves finally finding each other on a random park bench after decades of pain and distance. He placed the pocket watch in my hand. This, he whispered, is yours now. I shook my head. I can't. Yes, he said firmly, though his voice trembled. You can, and you must, because it no longer belongs to a man carrying regret. It belongs to you, a man who can choose differently. I held the watch tightly, feeling its weight, feeling its warmth, feeling the decades of sorrow and love embedded in the silver. Will you come tomorrow? I asked, voice cracking. He smiled softly. I'll try, he whispered. But if I don't, know that meeting you was the last gift life gave me. I don't remember how long we sat there, minutes, hours, time blurred. But I remember his final words before he walked away into the deepening dusk. You are my turning point, he said quietly. Be your own as well. And as he disappeared down the path, the pocket watch warm in my hands, I realized something with startling clarity. Sometimes the person who saves you isn't someone you meet in your lifetime. Sometimes it's someone who loved you long before you were born.